From Screen Junkie Studios in the heart of Los Angeles, this is Screen Junkies Movie Fights. Now your host, Andy Signore.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Movie Fights. I'm Andy Signore, back from vacation. You can see I'm a lot calmer than usual. Let's do this, shall we, guys?
Sure.
We're back from Comic-Con.
Yep.
It's like
Back
the
from
sweaty
Comic-Con,
balls.
had amazing Screen Junkie Central, and I'm so happy to be here with three amazing fighters. We're going to talk Comic-Con, Wonder Woman trailer, Justice League trailer, Marvel, all of it. We're going to go through it all for you guys today, and I'm very excited to have this panel with me to talk it out, because we had a Comic-Con panel, we did, but we're going to save it for later, because we wanted to talk about the live stuff right now. Dan's laughing because I'm doing my NPR voice to see how long I can do it. Because everyone says I'm loud, so I'm going to be quiet this time, see how it goes. First up, let's meet Dan Casey from Nerdist.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome, Dan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you excited to be here?
I am very excited to be here. I can feel it, but this excitement coursing through my veins.
I'm excited because I'm not usually as loud as this. I'm very loud right now. She's the newest member of our team. I'm so excited to have her. You've been everywhere. IGN, so many fun places. Roth Cornet.
Hello. I'm loving the sweaty balls voice. I have to admit, I am the underdog today. I am intimidated by the Dans.
The two Dans.
These are two of the smartest and funniest people I know in this field.
Oh,
it's
stop.
true. I don't think I'm smack talking very well, so right off the bat, getting it wrong.
No, you're doing a different approach.
She's in my
Humbling, yeah. So you can come in and swipe at the end. Finally, this man is here. He's the champ. Now, I got to introduce Dan Murrell. But I
Hi.
have to say something on your behalf, Dan.
Thank you.
I know there's a lot of people out there like, you're not putting the belt on the line. What the hell, you wuss? Da, 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 da. Blame me. Don't blame him. Because I've been trying to schedule an epic battle for you to put that belt in the line, and we almost had it happen at
That
Comic-Con.
close.
We were this close to having the battle of the century. We still did have, if you haven't seen, we did two amazing movie fights over at Central and a lot of other programming. But we were very close to finally putting that belt back in the line. We'd been waiting to do it, and it fell through last minute. So just bear with us. We're going to, because that fell through, we're working on some other options. The belt, I will make him, he's been dying to put the belt in the
I've been
line.
wanting to put the belt on the line for a while.
So leave Dan alone. I'm trying to produce the best show, and back me up. That would have been an amazing
it would have been
show.
a great show. Yeah.
So we were very close to fulfilling that. So just trust us. We're working on it. We'll get some options out there, and the belt will be back up in there. And then don't forget the showstopper's still out there.
It is.
Alicia Malone could drop in any moment to challenge you.
Like even today.
Oh,
there she is.
No.
No, she just left.
I love it because Dan's not. I want to make sure Dan has no clue that it happens.
I'm always ready.
He's already a little nervous. He's like, shit, is that going to happen today?
Well, I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I realize I don't have the belt. It's at home. So if she does, it's going to be like, here's nothing.
An IOU.
I'm so
yeah.
sorry.
No, I'm happy to be here.
All right, well, I'm happy to have you fight. We're going to get Dan in the mix more because Dan should be fighting. Like, we keep holding him off for these belts, but let's get you to fight, yeah?
It's fun. Yeah, I was telling you, this is my first non-event. Like, it's team-ups and last drunk fights and last person standings and live fights. This is my first, like, just regular movie fight since, like, January. So
We're
I'm
going to have
excited.
a regular one. It's going to be fun. But
It's
a
a
lot
good
of
time.
comic book stuff. So if you don't... I have to say also props to Alicia for that classic movie fights. That was an amazing episode. So much so I want to instill that happening more often, or at least classic fights throughout regular episodes. So we'll get more of that. A lot of you click on the comic book ones the most.
It's true.
That's sadly how it works. So today is the week of comic book movies. The Comic-Con was epic, a lot of news. We're going to be talking all Comic-Con today, but we'll be back with other options soon. But before we start the show, I got to introduce today's fact checker, Mr. Joe Starr.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Oh, hey. I've slightly already. I can't do
you
it.
bring it up.
Have you noticed?
Oh, I was going to lead us into Prairie Home Companion. It was
Oh, boy, there you go.
It's going to be a fun fight today. Follow along with us. Movie Fights Live. I'm going to try to be as fair as I can, but Roth and I have TV fights beef, so it might come into play. Just throwing it out there.
I'm feeling like the odds are a little stacked against me here.
We will see. I'm excited for this fight. I know Dan's no pressure, but Dan's going to do well. He knows his stuff, and you're a very strong fighter, Roth. And
have
Dan
notes.
is the champ, so I'm excited for it. Could go anyone's game. Dan has choked.
Often. And in front of my heroes.
What's going on in your drink?
All right, quick rule. I'm basing this on facts, passion, creativity. Any questions, particularly from you, Mr. Casey?
No.
Great.
Let's fight.
Let's fight.
Now let's do this!
This is where we fight!
Fight!
Round one. All right, this comes in from Tony Peluso on Twitter. Every year, Comic-Con becomes the place for studios, TV, movies, everything to show, make their mark. And so Tony Peluso asked us, who was the winner at this year's Comic-Con? You could pick anything. What was the moment, the trailer, the clip, the reveal? who overall won the con? And I'm calling you by your last names because otherwise it's the Dan's. Dan Casey, Mr. Casey. What are you picking?
Look, I think it's pretty simple. They saved the best for last this year at Comic-Con, and easily the best thing there was Marvel. Marvel's panel. They dropped a Doctor Strange trailer. They showed us all this new footage, including a look at an Infinity Gem hidden in there. If you saw it, good on you. They had Black Panther casting. They had so much there. They had Kurt Russell's role revealed. Basically, if you're a comic book fan, they delivered the goods in spades. They came to play. They came out with the biggest reveals there. They came out with the most anticipated movies there. And I guarantee you're going to be talking about that long after Suicide Squad leaves theaters.
Roth, what are you picking?
Already coming out with the punches there, Dan, I see. So in my heart, Kurt Russell won Comic-Con just by being there with his Kurt Russell-ness as the greatest living action hero non-fighter of all time. And with an awesome reveal. I love the Wonder Woman trailer. But when we're thinking about winning Comic-Con, it is actually based on quantifiable, empirical evidence, ladies and gentlemen. And though we may be surprised by the answer, it is actually Suicide Squad that won. Listen First Media gathered data looking at official hashtags across social media, looking at wiki page looks. I can speak the English language. Looking at basically all of the metrics that would indicate interest in a film, and it was by far and away #1 Suicide Squad with a bullet. 2 weeks out from release, that is winning Comic-Con, because what that means is that you have galvanized not only your fan base, but you've sent them out to evangelize to the audiences at large to get butts in seats. That is winning Comic-Con, ladies and gentlemen. Opinions aside, these are the facts.
Mr. Murrell.
Well, you both boldly picked two things that were already popular. I'm going to go with somebody who I actually thought won Comic-Con, and I think it's Zack Snyder. I'm 100% serious. I'm not saying this ironically. I'm not going to pull something out of my hat and, just be like, and that's his book. I am 100% serious. Zack Snyder, the first thing they did in Hall H was they marched all the directors out for the movies, and they brought out, James Wan and Ben Affleck. And when Zack Snyder it was about 85-15 in favor. But when Zack Snyder walked out, there were boos. There were discernible boos. This was a room that was not entirely sold.
Like liquor boos?
No, like BOOS, like boo-earns. Boo-earnses. There were boo-earnses.
I was saying boo-earns.
And I think he's not in a very good spot right now, or he wasn't going into that Comic-Con thing, because all they had to judge with was Batman v Superman, and there were discernible things. People have turned on this movie. People have turned on Batman v Superman. It was much anticipated, as we found out on this show sometimes. And then when it came out, people turned against him. And I think that there was so much skepticism about him in particular and Justice League. People were talking about how he should be fired. People were talking about how he shouldn't be allowed to make any more movies. And then he showed that footage. He showed that Justice League footage, and it brought everybody back on board. And I did some looks at it. First of all, he tweeted out the Justice League footage. 50,000 plus likes from that Twitter. That's the most liked thing that he's ever tweeted, including anything he ever tweeted about Batman v Superman. I also looked back. He doesn't tweet much. Prior to tweeting out the Justice League footage, the last time he tweeted was on March 21st. So this is right when Batman v Superman came out. The first 5, and this was a link for charity. The first 5 responses he got were, "You effed up the movie, unforgivable. That wasn't Batman. What have you done? I'll donate if you stop making movies. And why can't you make a GD movie with a good plot?" Those are the first 5 responses. The first 5 responses when he tweeted out Justice League were, "Thank you so much. I love you. We're grateful. Happy squealing gifts." People were on favor of this. They were thanking him for this footage. They were happy to see this footage. I think that he had a tough road to hoe. I think that if there had been anything really, really horribly wrong with this Justice League footage, he would have had a really difficult time at this Comic-Con, and I think that just by coming out and not ducking the people that were going against him, and by giving the fans footage of a movie that looks good, he actually turned it around, and that's not an easy thing to do. So when I think of a winner at Comic-Con, I'm thinking of somebody who was a little bit on his ass when it started, and at the end of it came back getting people excited once again for a movie that he is directing. People are now excited about that based on the strength of what he showed. So I'm going with Zack Snyder.
All right, guys, what do you think?
So, first of all, I just have to point out, like I did in the opening statements, that we can have as many opinions as we want about what won Comic-Con. To me, it's Kurt Russell because he exists. However, the fact of the matter is that when you gather all of the data,
Your data's flawed.
Your data's flawed, sir. When you gather all of the data, Suicide Squad got 548,000 points. Trek got 246,000. Wonder Woman 366. Justice League way down there at 295. Marvel with Doctor Strange is at number 8 and Spidey at number 9. Not even on the Mapster.
Now, Cage TV,
now what are these?
number
What
one
are
for
these?
TV.
Now, what are these impressions? What are these numbers you're throwing at me?
This is not just Dan.
It's a marketing
this
firm
is
that
not just
Warner
Dan.
Brothers hired
No,
to
no, no,
pump
no,
up
no.
their movies
No,
and
no,
put
no, no.
butts in
Hang
seats for
on. I'm curious
Suicide
how they're
Squad.
measuring this.
I'm telling you how they're measuring
Yes.
this, if you will allow me, sir.
Please.
Okay, so it's not just you going to look at Zack Snyder's Twitter page. It is assessing the data across social platforms, which arguably Facebook is actually far more effective than Twitter.
But is it related specifically to Comic-Con?
So yes, it's related to Comic-Con specifically.
This is
How so?
data gathered at
And,
Comic-Con
yes, it was
about
data-
social imprints that they showed there. But I think
So
the
you
point
don't think
about
it's a little funny that the movie opening in 2 weeks might be getting a little
Exactly.
more buzz because it's
And
about
we-
to open and it's a comic
we
book
are
movie
talking
at Comic-Con?
about what won Comic-Con, and what won
Right.
Comic-Con, and winning Comic-Con means that you have galvanized that fan base, but not only that,
It's a fan base that was
you
already
have-
galvanized.
Hang on, you have galvanized that fan base not only there, but to spread it to other fan bases to get butts in the seat. As far as Marvel is concerned, sir,
Yes,
it wasn't-
madam?
Yeah, they didn't release any footage.
because they don't
Hang on,
need to release
hang on,
footage. They don't
hang
feel
on.
scared. They're not in the corner. They're not like Zack Snyder, the nerd who's been shoved into the locker and was only let up because he said, "Hey, is this what you guys want to hear? Well, here it is. Hope you like it." And Suicide Squad, they showed pretty much. Look, there's only 7 minutes of movie you have not seen in trailers. Only 7 minutes left of establishing shots. That movie has come out every weekend for the past year.
It doesn't matter. The point is, the argument that we're having is what won Comic-Con, and this is the empirical, factual evidence,
not- but
not
it's
my
flawed.
opinion,
It's flawed.
not what I liked the best.
Okay, why is it
according
flawed?
to
Let's-
Dan.
I'll tell you
Go
why
ahead,
it was
Dan.
flawed. Because every person I saw at Comic-Con was either a Joker or a Harley Quinn already. If we're talking about last year, Suicide
Yes.
Squad won last year's Comic-Con because that is the movie that people were coming out. They're like, oh my God, I can't wait for Suicide Squad. This year, people are already excited about it. It doesn't surprise me that a lot of people were tweeting about Suicide Squad at Comic-Con because that's the next comic book movie to open. They're already cosplaying as Joker and Harley Quinn. Suicide Squad gave us the same final trailer. It's not going to convert anybody. People were already on board with that. Comic-Con didn't do anything to get people more excited about Suicide Squad than they already were.
So your evidence that the data is flawed is that Dan Murrell says so.
Well, no, I need more than just the data, though.
Right.
So, okay, good.
You don't know. I don't
get
have
it.
no context as to what. Was it just? Were they just a geotag in San Diego saying
wait,
like
hang on,
people
so-
were tweeting out cosplayers dressed as Suicide Squad?
I don't
don't
want to
know
get
what
hung
this
up on the data.
is.
It's a
Yeah.
fair point. I got it, but I need some more stuff.
Great. First of all, you just helped prove my point, which is that the thing that owned this con was Suicide Squad. Harley Quinn
Last
was
year.
this year. Harley Quinn was the most popular cosplay
Every
this year.
year.
And no, far more. And again, there have been articles tracing it, and it's far more this year. Second of all, you're saying that Zack Snyder won the comic. Let's just talk about your arguments.
Yes.
Zack Snyder did not win. He was, and look, I thought it was really rude that he was booed, first of all, and I felt like it was really brave for him to come out there and do that. But the fact of the matter, he was booed. And of all of the material that Justice League released, that was the one, although I liked it, that had the most mixed response. Whereas Wonder Woman, all over the place, whereas Wonder Woman was 100% appreciated, almost completely positive. And Marvel, that's like saying, oh, what started World War I? Stuff in Europe.
The assassination of Gavrilo Princip
Exactly.
of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by Gavrilo Princip.
Exactly. And what your answer was politics in Europe. It's very general. Marvel won. But what does that mean?
Oh, Marvel won because they revealed Kurt Russell's role, that he in fact does have a penis and is playing a living freaking
Which,
planet.
again, to
they
me is the
revealed
best
that
thing that's
Oscar
ever
winner
happened.
Brie Larson is playing Captain Marvel, something people have been wondering out for months. All that Warner Brothers did with DC is they told us stuff that we knew was coming. They showed us a little glimpse because we were so scared to see their movies because they're so dark and doomy and gloomy. And now here they are joking around having a good time. But you could argue that they went too far to the other direction. We need some parody. We need to go down the middle. Yes, I enjoyed the Wonder Woman movie, but we're not talking about Wonder Woman. Zack Snyder's just a producer on that. We're talking about what he directed here, if the arguments I'm hearing are
Justice
to be believed.
League,
Yes,
yes.
Justice League, which we'll get into that in a little bit, but I don't think that Zack Snyder won. I definitely don't think that Suicide Squad won, marketing data aside. I think that what won Comic-Con on in the hearts and minds of people, and what they're going to keep talking about after the fact, after this movie comes out in 2 weeks, is everything on Marvel's Phase 3 slate.
Except that the fact is that's not what they were talking about at Comic-Con,
But
and it's not what they're
that's
talking
so
about
out of
now.
context.
And we're talking about Marvel here. You're with me on this one.
No, I'm talking about Suicide Squad.
So you're talking about you think, you feel, your guesses, you liked it. I liked a lot that came out of the Marvel panel too, but that is not what people are talking about. And DC, to your earlier point, DC was coming in at a slight deficit versus Marvel. Marvel was coming off of a huge success with Civil War. DC was coming off of a very mixed response with Batman v Superman, and they came in with a movie, their very next movie coming up, that said, this looks awesome. People like it. People are more excited now than ever. Will Smith owned that panel, brought all of his charm to it.
Will Smith could own literally any
Yeah,
panel.
Will
He
Smith
could be
could
in a
walk into this
Frasier
room
with
and own it.
Because the Yankees
The man
win,
is living charisma.
Hang on, just because the
All right,
Yankees
these are final
win,
thoughts. Go ahead.
Just because the Yankees win all the time doesn't mean they're not winners. We're talking about what won Comic-Con, not what made us feel a little bit better about Zack Snyder, which didn't really win it. He just sort of kind of made a dent, and not what was already strong Marvel, but kind of generic and vague and didn't really get talked about enough because they didn't release enough of it to the audience at large. This Suicide Squad 100% empirically won Comic-Con.
Dan, Casey, go ahead, final thoughts.
Just because you put all your eggs in one basket and then spill that basket over a shrieking crowd does not equate a victory. Just because you make apologies for what you did in the past, because you messed up the first time, so you had to release a 3-hour version, now you're like, oh, we put in more jokes to this version, and you're trying to placate a screaming crowd, does not make you the winner. Delivering consistently excellent films that get people excited, not just during Comic-Con, but in the weeks and months ahead, because when they drop that footage, and mark my words, they will, people are going to remember their panel. They're going to get link backs. They're going to keep people talking about their Comic-Con presentation all fall long.
Dan, final thoughts?
Exactly. It's what's going forward. That's when I say when you win Comic-Con is what makes the most impact going forward. Suicide Squad, you're throwing numbers like, well, so more people tweeted about Suicide Squad than tweeted about anything else. First of all, I don't know who these people are, where they were, and in what context. Secondly, yes, it's not surprising that the movie that's opening in 2 weeks is going to get the most buzz. I'm sure Deadpool was the most tweeted about movie back in February when Deadpool was opening. I don't think that Suicide Squad being talked about more than any other means it won Comic-Con. People were already on board for that movie. They were already excited about movie. When I think of something that won Comic-Con, I think of somebody like Zack Snyder, who, no pun intended, was on the schneid. He was not popular. He was not popular with fans. He had an uphill road to climb, and he showed them footage that got them excited. Justice League is at 17. That footage is 17.8 million views. It's the second most viewed after Wonder Woman. And I know you're saying, well, people said they didn't like it. The people that I'm seeing, the people on YouTube, the people that are on the places that are the most critical, are liking that footage. The likes ratios are good. There's been a positive response. It wasn't a look at the footage and people going like, oh, here's another Zack Snyder movie. It's people seeing the Justice League footage and saying, I like the tone of that. I like the humor of that. I like the look of it. The characters look cool. I think Zack Snyder turned it around, and that's why I think he won Comic-Con just by turning around such a skeptical group of people.
Ooh, heated battle right in round one. Joe Starr, anything to add?
You know, it's hard to kind of research some of these numbers. The best I can do is check out a YouTube channel that has all of the con trailers posted. Movie Clips Trailers, the YouTube channel. Doc Strange has 2.5 million views. Now, these aren't necessarily Comic-Con specific views. Zack Snyder's Justice League has 13.5. And Suicide Squad is coming in just about over 2 million. And that's what I've got for you, Andy. There were a lot of numbers in this. Roth went the my wife yells logic at me until I give up route, and I respect her for it.
I don't know where those numbers came from.
She committed.
All I had was the logic. To me, it's Kurt Russell one.
Well, so here's the problem. That hurts your argument because that's part of his argument.
But
So
it's not about
but
opinion.
you did. You said Kurt Russell's part, and that was part of his panel. Like there was a lot of things he listed. So I do think the numbers was good, but I just needed more, and I didn't hear enough back and forth on that. And I think Dan and both Dan's fought you pretty hard on why the numbers aren't enough to win Comic-Con. So it did come down to the Dans ultimately. And it was tough because I think you basically had you both had strong arguments. I think I'm leaning more towards Casey, but Dan just was really passionate into the reasons why the other two weren't. Although I didn't hear much against Marvel, to be fair, and he gave you more about Snyder. Casey gets the point. Worked it out in my head as we went. I think Dan did give the best arguments there. Very close, though. Good first round. Did we do a poll, Joe?
Yeah, we did do a poll. Twitter says Wonder Woman trailer, and of course Screen Junkies Live, and or Screen Junkies Central, and of course our poll: 43% Marvel, followed by Suicide Squad, followed by Poor Zach.
Wow.
Shocker.
For the record, there is still mixed reaction to that footage. Sure, we showed it at Central. We showed all the trailers. We showed Wonder Woman. Everyone loves Wonder Woman. I'm excited for Wonder Woman. We showed Justice League, and there wasn't like boos, but we were like, want to watch Wonder Woman again? Yeah. And then we went, want to watch Justice League again? Silence. And I was like, what? Really? Because I wanted to watch it again, because I was like, I want to see what's in there. But complete strangers and Screen Junkie fans were sitting there and did that. It was surprising to me.
Time will tell.
But I'm with you. I think interesting. But you picked Zack Snyder. That was if you picked Justice League.
But I think that he specifically did turn it around more than anybody else.
We'll talk more after the fight. I'm excited about that. I think it came down a little bit more.
The Justice League footage did a lot for him. I agree.
All right, here we go. Round 2. This comes from Project Event. Oh, here we go. So we've determined the winner of who won Comic-Con. So now it's only key that we talk about what was the biggest disappointment at this year's Comic-Con. This comes from Brian. Thank you for the question. And Roth, you're starting first. What was the biggest disappointment of Comic-Con?
So the Pokemon Go panel at Hall H was the biggest disappointment of Comic-Con. And the reason is because this game has been so explosively popular. They had 6,000 people in attendance for this panel. You know, they had Chris Hardwick come out. They had this whole setup. There were rumors that they were going to reveal a new legendary Pokemon, and then nothing really happened in the panel. You know, they came out and they basically were talking about the popularity of the game. It became very clear that it was in beta. It became very clear that they had Hall H only because they knew that they could fill it, but not really because they had the material to back up being in a Hall H. And what happened was after the panel, you had tons of fans disappointing, tweeting out that they were disappointed. It is like the exact opposite of what you want from your fandom coming out of a big Hall H panel. So that was number one, hugely anticipated panel that did not deliver on anything.
Dan Murrell.
So much to say about that, but I'll wait till the next one. Mine is one of the big things, and a lot of things they did it with Star Trek Beyond at the beginning of Comic-Con, but one of the big things that they were talking about that was going to premiere at Comic-Con was something that I was looking forward to a lot. One of the great, classic comic stories, Batman the Killing Joke. They were going to premiere it at Comic-Con. They're going to have the panel and everything. That was going to be its big launch. Unfortunately, it turns out that Batman the Killing Joke, number one, was not exactly a straight adaptation of the famous story. Number two, added some very interesting things to the tale that a lot of people didn't see coming. So when people went to see this kind of anime, and people love the DC animated universe too, by the way. It's part of the DC animated universe, which people like more than DC extended universe. The animated films are high quality. They do great adaptations. And people went to see, you have Mark Hamill returning as the Joker, Kevin Conroy as Batman, maybe the two best modern actors playing those characters. And they found out that instead of fixing some of the problems with the story, like with Batgirl and her use, they're like, well, we're going to add more Batgirl to make her more integral to the story, because the big criticism of the Killing Joke story graphic novel was that she was there basically just to be a victim. And they're like, well, we're going to add this Batgirl prologue and make her part of the story. Well, what they meant by that was that they were going to have her bone Batman on the roof of a building and then get angry and quit being Batgirl. Which instead of, it's like fixing a fire by throwing gasoline on it, it just made everything worse. So instead of delivering what should have been a really great adaptation of a beloved comic story, it was an inferior version. The animation was not up to par with the rest of the DC animated universe. And people were disappointed. And this was supposed to be one of the most hyped events of Comic-Con. It is a comic book adaptation. It should have been a slam dunk home run. Everything was there, and they just whiffed. They whiffed, and that is a massive disappointment.
Dan Casey.
Look, we all know, we've established that Marvel won Comic-Con. But this is a fact. But they were also the biggest disappointment at Comic-Con. And yes, it is possible. Because of the very thing that we discussed. Yes, they put out a Doctor Strange trailer, a movie that comes out in November. They're obligated to. They didn't put out any other footage. You didn't get to see the amazing mockumentary that Taika Waititi made of Thor Ragnarok, featuring Thor and Hulk as roommates. You didn't see...
Thor and Hulk were not roommates. He was roommates with Daryl in that.
Daryl, look, that's the problem. I can't know this because they didn't put it out there. Thank you, Roth. An alley-oop is still a dunk. Anyway, they didn't put out the Spider-Man footage. They didn't put out the Guardians footage. We have to read this through Twitter. And as someone who works in the entertainment news space, this is profoundly frustrating. And yes, you can make the argument Marvel doesn't need to put it out. You know you're going to go see it anyway. But if you're so confident in your product, why not put it out? Why not make it an event for everyone, not just the 6,000 people that have nothing better to do than camp out for 4 days? We can't all be there, even though we desperately want to be. Why should they have all the fun? Why should they disappoint millions of fans around the globe that can't make it to San Diego? We want our Spider-Man footage. We want to see Black Panther. We want Guardians footage. We want it all, and we want it online.
Well, that's too bad, because you know what? One of the great things that I liked about what Marvel did at Comic-Con was they actually rewarded the fans who sat in line all night and waited to get into Hall H. James Gunn has said why he didn't want to put his footage online. It's because the second
he's scared.
It's because it's not done. The CG is not done. It's not a finished product, and he knows that the second he puts it online, people are going to scrutinize it and analyze it. And he said it's not up to that par
That's
yet.
why
It's not
you
ready to
label
be
it.
scrutinized. But people don't care. People are going to be like, Mr. Gunn, I was going to complain about the CG in your movie, but you clearly said that it's not ready. Now they're going to say, like, Star-Lord looks like ass. Oh, look at this backdrop. And I love the fact that Marvel gave a convention exclusive, because that harkens back to the old days of Comic-Con. People are spoiled now that they get everything that the panel sees. You're talking about it, aren't you? Like, I remember when they did the Batman v Superman teaser that they never put out. People talked way more about Batman v Superman because they couldn't see that footage, and there was speculation and description and recreation about that footage that they couldn't see than they do when they just throw the trailer out online. I like that it rewards people. The people at Comic-Con were not disappointed by Marvel. Quite the opposite. They were very, 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 very satisfied, because not only did they get a lot of stuff, it was exclusive.
The people at Comic-Con. It's not what the people were disappointed by at Comic-Con. It's the biggest disappointment that happened to be there. It's not the people that were on the ground.
Dan, 2 minutes ago, you were saying the exact opposite of all of this. 2 minutes ago, you were saying that Marvel won Comic-Con because they were so strategic in their approach that they're going to get people to talk about this for months following Comic-Con, because that's how smart they were with their approach. You literally said the exact opposite of this argument.
And that
2 minutes ago.
conversation.
And as we have determined, you were right then, which means by logic, that's right, Joe, you must be wrong now.
No, that was
That's
a
right.
different.
Yes.
That's a different question.
It's
Just
true.
because they
It
dominate
is
the
not.
conversation
You literally are
doesn't
saying the
mean
exact
that it's all
opposite thing.
positive. It's people talking about it, and when they do finally release it, and they will, people are going to be excited. So it's the problem. It's disappointing in the moment at Comic-Con.
I think you've already
but
counted yourself out of winning this by winning the first argument. If you had lost that, maybe you could win this.
I
but
think
it
this.
just-
I think
so
this is
now
a
it's down
false
to me and
equivalency
Dan.
that you're drawing
I think
here.
You should just go
Look
ahead and get some water.
Oh, really?
Whoa.
Wow. Well, if you want, look.
Just kidding.
You took a book out of my
Let me talk about
playbook.
Pokemon real quick, because I did some research into this whole Pokemon thing, which is like, people were outside Hall H waiting for this legendary Pokemon to show up. Let me tell you how this came about. A guy on
People
YouTube.
waiting outside of it
People
too.
waiting
there
outside
was
the hall.
thousands of
my
people
God.
outside.
But
Thousands of
Roth is
people.
making it sound like, Nintendo is being very coy about maybe
not
we'll release this.
Nintendo.
No,
It was just
there was
internet
a guy,
dummies.
There was one guy, Phil DeFranco, a guy on YouTube, tweeted that
It's not
he
Nintendo.
heard that maybe someone might unleash a legendary Pokemon outside this hall, and everybody,
He
as the joke said,
clickbaited.
everybody lost their
He
minds.
clickbaited Comic-Con.
He clicked, and then at the end he's like, "Well, I didn't mean to. Someone's either messing with me or they are BSing me while drunk." So some guy heard a
So-
rumor of a rumor and tweeted it, and people were just like, "Where's my legendary Pokemon?"
Hang on.
If you can get fooled by one tweet, you deserve to wait on the hot sun for hours for a Pokemon
First of
that
all,
doesn't
it's
show
not
up.
even that one aspect of the panel that's a disappointment. So, A, it's not Nintendo, so that's just A. But it doesn't even matter.
Sorry, yes.
Secondarily,
it's a Nintendo-related property.
let's talk about your choice.
Yes.
Which, frankly, had a ton of terrible press going into it. Most critics were highly, highly, highly suspect of this project going into
Who?
it. I can, first of all, I'm not going to name names because
Oh,
I
you're
don't
not
want
gonna
The
name
prospect of an
Do you
R-rated
mean
killing
critics? Do you mean
joke.
critics?
Because
Like professional critics?
Professional critics.
I'm not talking about professional critics. I'm talking about comic book
And
fans.
hang on.
Comic book fans.
Hang on. And fans. You can go and look at most of the buildup, and most people were suspect. After most of the marketing releases came out, people thought that they were going to do exactly what they did. They thought they were going to get exactly what they did. It's not
Who
a
are these
disappointment.
people?
It's not.
If you
again, old colleagues of mine and 100%
Well, I
of the
can't
fans that
quantify
I
that.
read.
Even-
I
look,
can only quantify people
as
that I
a
know were
DC
anticipating. I was
animated
one of them.
films.
My colleague Donna Dickens is one of them, but I do not want people going after her.
Well,
Look,
no,
if you're-
I'm not
if you're a
talking about
fan-
critics.
And not only that, a lot of the fan base. I was tracing it because I was very curious about this project, and I was looking at the build up to it, and most of it was very, very negative, and most people thought they were going to get exactly what they did. When you look at something like Pokemon and how explosively popular this was, you took Hall H to have that panel. 6,000 people came, and when you go to Hall H and you have 6,000 people in that panel, I want to see some damn holograms.
Look,
I wanna see some
Snowden
fun.
wasn't Hall
You
H.
have to
Hall H
come
doesn't
in
mean
with
literally
dragons.
anything.
Secondly,
Hall H is just a big room where you can put stuff if you got the money.
You best
Wait,
be
wait,
coming
wait,
with
wait, wait.
something
Let
if
me-
you are going to have that
Pokemon
much build
Go.
up. Are you saying Pokemon
Okay,
No,
Go is
real
not
here's what I'm
popular?
saying. Pokemon Go got popular about 10 minutes before Comic-Con. It's
65
not their fault that
65
everybody
okay.
was expecting
and can we
this
verify was
grandiose
Pokemon
thing.
Go booked for Comic-Con before?
They were booked for Pokemon. They had a smaller panel. They got upgraded to Hall H
Right.
leading up to Comic
It's
Con.
not
They have
their
65
fault.
million
Because it blew up.
I
downloads,
think
20 million
Comic-Con
daily
probably
active
moved them
users.
to Hall
But
H because they wanted more people in
But the
Hall
problem
H.
with Pokemon Go, and if you didn't know this going into it, you're a damn fool and don't know how to operate a phone. It is a broken product. There's not enough features to warrant the daily active users, which they are hemorrhaging like someone who got a wound during the Civil War.
Where is their fault, though, is that they should not have agreed to go into Hall H, because when you go into Hall H with a product that is that wildly popular, when you allow a rumor to start, then you are going to release a
How are they
legendary
going to not
character.
allow a rumor
You
to start?
can deny it the minute it happens. You can say, look, guys, that's not what's going to happen in this panel. But instead, you allowed your fan base to
Oh,
believe that
come on.
for it
Fine.
to get
Go
their
ahead,
butts in
Dan.
seats.
I'm sorry. If people were disappointed that something that they themselves, it didn't say in the Hall H program, by the way, we're going to unleash a legendary Pokemon, people in their heads decided they should release, and when they didn't, they're like, boo. That's not Pokemon's fault. Let me talk about the Killing Joke. First of all, it was highly anticipated. This is something that was in a very limited theatrical run. It's made over $4 million. This is a movie that fans wanted to see, that they're going to see, and that they are being disappointed by. And you will be hard-pressed to prove to me that an adaptation of one of the most popular Batman and Joker, One Bad Day, that's one of the classic Batman Joker stories of all time, for it to turn out as badly as it did, to say that that's not an enormous disappointment, especially when its premiere was at Comic-Con, it's hard for me to believe that, because this was a massively, massively anticipated movie.
Dan Casey?
Look, you just said if people didn't see that coming about Pokemon. Look, here's the thing. You can make the same argument about The Killing Joke, because this is such a popular graphic novel. This is such an anticipated movie that, much like Batman v Superman, it has an impossible task. There's no way it can shoulder the burden of what it was meant to do. This is so anticipated. And if you look at DC animated movies, people complain about the animation. DC animation has been garbage for years, ever since they gave
That's
Brute
not
Tim
true.
the boot. Yes, it
they
has.
did Flashpoint. They did the Dark Knight. They did the Dark Knight Returns. They did an adaptation
which
of that
were
fans like.
capable adaptations, not true to the comic per se.
But they
make
weren't garbage
changes.
dumpster fires. Like,
I mean-
this was worse than anyone could have ever imagined.
Who's saying
Ever.
this? The same people that answered that Twitter poll from earlier, the listen first, and is this people on the support DC Films hashtag? Who is
No.
disappointed by this? I understand.
Have
Look,
you read the reaction to this thing?
yes, I've read hot takes and think pieces all over the web, but who's writing those? People that need to get clicks. Who's actually
not
on?
true.
Yes, absolutely. Do a Google search. I guarantee it will
I have
yield
seen.
results.
I have been on Twitter. I researched this because I wanted to know. Like, it wasn't just me. I researched this. The fan reaction on Reddit. The fan reaction on Twitter. The fan reaction. I'm not talking about think pieces. I'm not talking about people talking about the gender roles and Batman: The Killing Joke. That's a whole separate thing. I'm talking about fan reaction. People that love the story. They are disappointed with this, particularly because it had the prestige of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill and the DC animation tag, which does come with expectations for it to be competent and good.
Final thoughts, Roth. I'm making that your final thoughts, Dan.
Those were his final thoughts?
Yes.
Okay. So my final thoughts are this, is that I don't think that there can be any argument that the fans heading in to see Pokemon Go really, really were highly anticipating something coming out of anything coming out of the panel. And all that came out of the panel was a quick chat where they highlighted the fact that this was a hugely popular game and they were surprised, which we know because you have 6,000 people in your Hall H panel. But they delivered nothing. Not only was it not the legendary character, which, yes, they could have come out and denied that that was coming if they knew they were going to disappointment, but they brought them literally nothing. The most highly anticipated, the the most disappointed. I know that there was a lot of controversy going into The Killing Joke, and not everyone was highly anticipating it, to the point that you even switched at the last minute because you didn't even think it was that highly anticipated.
Whoa, what?
As far
Excuse
as Marvel,
me? No.
as
Well,
far
that's
as
not
Marvel
true.
goes-
That's
as
not
far as
true.
Marvel goes,
That's not
as far as
true.
Marvel goes, the fact is that you undercut your entire argument in this round by saying the exact opposite thing very effectively, by the way. It was really well done in the last round. So I'm sorry, you can't have it both
You're
ways,
trumping
Dan.
me here. This is not true. You're just ascribing things to me that I did not say.
You did.
I did not.
Well,
Did you
then-
not pick Doctor Strange originally, Dan?
What?
Didn't you pick Doctor Strange originally, she's saying?
I realized that this.
Yeah,
no,
you did.
wait, no.
You
But you did.
Wait,
think of
first,
it.
wait,
That's
no,
not it.
that does not count. Number
Yes,
one,
it does.
that does
You
not
didn't even
count.
think of it.
It doesn't
You
matter
said,
what
I was
I
gonna let it
picked
go, but
first. No,
I had to cross off
I
Doctor
realized that The Killing Joke was premiering at Comic Con. I've been
because
talking
that's
about
how
this
much
all
you
week.
didn't
How
Alright.
disappointing this was. I realized that it
You
premiered and that I could count it. No. You don't get to
You're
do
getting
that.
all red.
You don't get to
Oh
do
my
that.
God.
That is out of bounds.
He's so mad.
No.
You're
No.
Final thoughts, Dan Casey.
Well, I changed my answer from the Snowden panel, so you are welcome,
Exactly.
everyone. Look, Roth, you just said it yourself. I gave the best argument. I argued it so eloquently. I argued it because it's a different way to phrase it. Yes, there was a lot to be excited about, and I think ultimately they won. But as to me, it was my biggest disappointment they did not release the footage. I understand the efficacy of it, but I don't think it was the best thing to do as a Marvel fan, as a Marvel Films fan. Look, Pokemon Go, they didn't announce nothing. They announced that features like trading are coming. That's literally
And then
not nothing. That's literally the opposite of
and
nothing.
Twitter
It's
made
something.
fun of it.
Also,
Well, because they put the expectations
yeah,
on it,
because
not
Twitter
Pokemon.
is full of jerks and egg people. That's what it's there for. Also, like, look, you knew that it was going to be controversial with Batman: The Killing Joke. No one was going to be like, you can't please everyone. I think that it's crazy to say that was the biggest disappointment when there's so many other things to be sad about.
Woo! Poke the bear on that one, Joe. Did you like that?
I'm terrified.
Anything to add?
Dan's probably pissed.
I'm just saying, you can argue me on facts. Don't try to get me on bullshit
That's
technicalities.
the fact that you couldn't even remember that it was happening.
That's making it on the sizzle. Are we keeping track of these, Ken? Go ahead, Joe.
Let's see here. Twitter, from our earlier round, Kyle Nerona says, hearing Dan Murrell go to bat for Zack Snyder's bringing tears to my eyes. Maya
Is that
Patton
a good
says,
comment or a bad comment?
Let's
I
ask
call him
Roth.
like I see him.
Maya Patton, the biggest disappointment was no new Rogue One footage, no new Rogue One anything.
They weren't
And
there, yeah.
at
Blame
Janine
Celebration.
DeBean says, Power Rangers, no footage? Boo. Let's see here. I've got some facts. Pokemon Go launched July 6th. The move to Hall H was announced on July 15th, so they may not have necessarily had a chance to prepare Hall H, unlike Screen Junkie Central, which had a Pokemon lure.
It did.
Did we?
We did have
We
a
did.
Pokemon.
Oh,
We
I
did.
didn't know that.
And air conditioning,
That's
which
good.
made it my favorite place to be.
A lot of good air
Next year,
conditioning.
guys.
And booze.
And Dan, you didn't get into the Q&A portion of
No,
the
I forgot to
Killing
mention that
Joke.
the writer of the movie called a fan a pussy from on stage. Yeah. Oh boy,
Here's where I
so
gotta-
much going on with that movie.
Here's where I gotta go. I think you all legitimately picked disappointment. Well, no, I think Casey, you were knocked. Dan Casey, you were knocked out because you did just completely go against your first argument.
Look, I call it nuance. You can call it going against myself.
So,
We'll
but
let
I
history
think Roth
decide.
and Dan, you both had some good. Dan Murrell, you both had some good thoughts. But there was one of you that really I felt knocked the other two harder with his arguments, and that was Dan Murrell. He even got testy at the
Game
end.
is fixed.
But he had a
Oh.
he had some you knocked out Casey the best, and I think you did give you when you brought up the Phil of DeFranco and the whole reason of where it came from. I was very impressed with those facts. So Dan Murrell gets the point.
It's not a slam on Phil DeFranco. It's just like one tweet.
I
you
don't
know?
That was a
Game is
sick
fixed.
Philly
Don't overreact
D-burn.
to one
Sick
tweet,
Philly
you know?
D-burn.
I'm
got
sure
some
he
press.
heard. I'm sure he got some good Twitter info.
All right, here we go. Round
Great
3.
engagement.
Gare Bear 11. Big hits this obviously at Comic-Con. No one said it was the winner, but I think it was definitely easily one of the winners. It was Wonder Woman
Yeah.
trailer. So Gary Davenport, Care Bear 11 asked us, what was the best part of the Wonder Woman trailer? Now you got to pick me a moment. Pick me a moment, a shot, a scene. What everyone's raving. Why should we be excited? What was the best part of this trailer that gets us feel good that this is gonna be a good movie? Dan, you're first.
Yeah, I love
Dan
the trailer. The thing that really stuck with me, because with so many superhero movies going, I like things that look different, and I like that what we saw of her doing like hand-to-hand combat, particularly when she's got the lasso, and you see her using that effectively in battle. That's what I like, because it was my favorite action in Batman v Superman, because it is different, and because it's not just Superman in a suit punching or Batman in a suit punching. It's different. It's something I'm anxious to see how that's used. Anything, and Deadpool proved that, anything you can bring to the table now with a superhero movie that's different, I like. And for me, Wonder Woman looked cool. We've seen badass shots. We saw badass shots of her in Batman v Superman, but her style, her fighting style, and particularly how she's going to do that sort of thing, incorporating the lasso, that's what made me the most excited, because I think it's going to be a new kind of superhero action, something I haven't seen before, and I'm super excited for that.
Dan Casey, what was your pick?
My pick is the shot of when Wonder Woman's in that room with all the soldiers doing the sweep the leg Johnny, but particularly when she smashes the rifle on her back and then pushes that right into more ass kicking. It was such an iconic moment. I think it's super resonant right now at this time when gun violence is on everyone's mind. Everyone points to that panel from The Dark Knight Returns of Batman holding the gun saying, "This is the weapon of the enemy. We don't use this." Wonder Woman's putting that into action. And from what we've seen in the DCU so far, Batman has no problem using guns. It's nice to see Wonder Woman actually taking a stand.
Roth, what part are you picking?
So I'm picking the moment where she is holding up the shield against the hail of bullets in the trenches, in the trench fight. Look at that. Okay, this is the reason, is that first of all, structurally, when you look at the trailer, everything is building to this moment. The creators have chosen this moment to be the climax of that trailer. If you listen to the sound design, if you look at the emotional buildup, everything, her slowly climbing out into no man's land of the trenches, is leading to this. Even in the sound design, this is when they start to meld the sound of the gunfire with the sound of the primal drums. And the reason that they do, and it's like, and the reason that they do that, because that is the moment that sells this movie for what it is. That tells you that Wonder Woman in World War I is going to work, and it's going to work together. It's a war that is full of blood and death and violence and gunfire, and there she is in the midst of all this, in this madness, being fundamentally and solely, the shot is just on her herself. Wonder Woman, who is a warrior, who is fighting violence but isn't returning. That is the Wonder Woman that we want to see, and that moment tells us that this movie is going to work against all odds of her working in World War I. That is the moment of the trailer.
It's a lot to bring to 2 seconds of a trailer. Wow.
Well, she did the sound design, as you heard, by her amazing Foley work.
I listened to it 20
cool.
times. Listen to it. It goes building.
Oh,
building.
No, it's a very well edited trailer. I'll give you that.
To that moment. That is the moment they chose to highlight, and then it's silence right afterwards. They constructed it for that to be the moment that is the quintessential moment of that trailer. Look at that. My God. Look at that!
Yeah,
it looks
it's a nifty
cool.
shield. It's pretty
Yeah.
neat. Different than the one she used in BVS. I wonder what happens to it. Hopefully we'll find out in the movie.
That tells you what the movie is going to be.
I don't know about that. That's her
Go
putting
ahead,
her
Dan.
shield up.
Why
I
do
mean,
you-
she put her shield up in Batman v Superman, too. We know that she has a shield and she can use it to
It's her
block things.
signature move.
You
It
don't
looks
see
cool.
her by herself against
All three
the
of these
hail
shots
of World War I
look
villains.
cool. I mean,
you
they-
saw the lasso in BVS, by the way.
Well, but not like that. It was used against Doomsday, and it was such a throwaway. I like how we're actually going to see her use this, how we actually see Wonder Woman on her own
For
use
about a
this.
second.
And again, it's like, well, yours is like 2 seconds. Yours is like a second longer than mine.
let's not argue about time.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to argue about time. No, the reason I'm most excited about that is, again, I just like that they're going to approach this Wonder Woman a little bit differently as far as her action. The way that she moves, you can see her when she's using the lasso, she kind of glides a little bit. She doesn't, it's not that just kinetic jump, punch thing that we've seen. It's a lot more graceful. With the lasso, you've got something new. It's a different style, and that's what makes me more excited. That was really my only takeaway about Wonder Woman from the trailer that I didn't know already. I knew that she was tough, and I knew that she looked cool with the shield and everything.
You didn't know she had a lasso?
I knew she had a lasso, but I didn't know how she was going to use it in the context of the movie and how they were going to arrange her fighting style. And just that glimpse of it really made me intrigued about how she's going to operate inside this movie.
If you want a glimpse of her fighting style, please look no further than the amazing moment I selected. If you want to talk about yours, you have Chris Pine doing a weird dab movement in the corner of that still they chose. I have no idea what's going on.
The still.
Yeah, look, well, hey, you didn't say no either, so you're complicit by association.
I didn't see the still.
In my scene, everyone I talked to after this, and this might be confirmation bias on my part, but I talked to quite a number of people people. The scene they brought up over and over again was the one where she is by herself going up against a veritable army of people, kicking ass, taking names,
With a lasso.
standing against violence, stopping
Hang
them.
on,
Look,
dude.
here, please, let me finish,
Okay.
because she shatters their rifle. Look, speed ramping has been done to death. Zack Snyder should not be allowed to do it anymore, but this made speed ramping cool again. This was an effective use of it. It was so kinetic, it was wonderful, and it was nice to see something like that happen. It's unique. It's something that we have not seen before in a trailer like
Hang
this.
on one second. First of all, the people that I talked to chose my moment. Not only that, everyone around me in Hall H gasped at that moment, but not only that.
Everybody
you
picked
just said-
somebody.
You just said that it was a veritable army. It was 5 people in a room. She is up a literal army. That is a literal army that she's up against in that shot.
Yeah, there's so
With
much
a
more
freaking
space. You can
shield.
fit way more dudes in there.
Literally by herself against an army with a shield, a hail of fire and bullets going up against her. And yet she is there standing freaking strong like the Wonder Woman that we want and we love in that moment. That is the moment. Look, is it a cool thing to shatter the gun?
Yeah, it's
that's a cool
awesome.
thing.
Some would say
But
the
it
best
is-
part of
no,
the trailer.
It's not. You would say that, but the fact is that the people that made
He
the
did say it,
trailer,
for the record. It's
the
true.
people that made the trailer designed the trailer to build you to that moment, because that is by far much cooler than one gun is stopping 20.
Then
40,
why
50,
did I forget that was even in the
100 guns?
trailer if
Because
it's so
you're not-
iconic?
You're a little dim. I mean, I love you.
Hey,
Whoa.
wow. Look, I don't have a
not
sense of
personal.
smell, but there's no need to make fun of the
He's
disabled.
actually-
Seems a little-
You're insanely smart.
Dan Murrell?
Yeah, I mean,
she was kidding.
I feel like
was
I don't know. I feel like both
The audience
arguments
is going to kill you for that.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
know that.
They know each other.
I'm
She was
kidding.
kidding.
I know him well. I love him, and he's the smartest person I know.
I feel like Casey's argument is that it looks cool, and I agree it looks cool. I kind of missed what that was in the trailer. There's so much going on in that trailer. I saw that something was breaking, but I didn't like, oh, that's a rifle, and it's breaking. Maybe if you sit down and frame by frame it, but I've seen it 2 or 3 times. I didn't realize that was a rifle. It goes by very quickly, as the rest of this trailer does. And I like your shot. It's cool, but it's a hero shot. It's a superhero shot. We've seen it's like the bullet shot in Superman Returns. It's a great. I don't know the You're bringing so much context to this, and so much backstory and symbolism and everything, and
Because
it's like
it's
a
all in
2-minute
there.
shot, but it's not. It's a shot of her doing this with bullets. We don't
No.
know who's shooting at her from where or why, where she is. Are there soldiers on that battlefield? I don't know. I don't know what she's doing. Maybe she's practicing. I have no idea. That could be her
Can you
practicing.
do that
to use
again
her
in your
shield.
Mark Wahlberg voice?
I don't know. Maybe she's practicing. I don't know. That's this plan. Shooting at her with a machine gun. Maybe she's learning how to use her shield. We don't know that. We haven't seen the movie. I think that mine actually gives you some information about the movie, some cool information as to how she's going to operate, how her fighting style is different, how it's unique, and that's what makes me more excited and makes me say
She's
that's the
very
best part.
obviously not practicing, because the only place she would be practicing is her homeland, and this is in the middle of the
We
war.
don't know
She's
that. I
crawled
don't know.
out of the trenches.
Maybe
She's
Chris
in the middle
Pine's
of the
like,
war.
look, an abandoned
She's-
battlefield. I'm going to shoot at your shield.
Hold on, I
the
hired these
trailer.
extras
Watch
for
the
the day.
trailer.
I don't know.
Look, the reason you couldn't
Final
tell.
thoughts, go ahead, yeah.
The reason you couldn't tell that she was shattering her rifle is because it's very low light, and as someone who is said to be dim, I can see in those conditions. And you know what? What I could see was amazing, because you get to see A, how she fights, B, something epic, something awesome, and C, you get to see something unlike your 2 moments, something where she is taking the weapon of the oppressor and taking it and shattering it, quite literally standing up to them by taking away their ability to do harm.
Final thoughts, Roth?
That was one quick moment in a sequence that was the come down of the climax, which is my moment. Yours, it happened very quick. It was in a quick succession of shots. We've already seen the lasso in BVS. This moment was the money shot. This was the moment that told you what exactly that movie is going to be. And how am I reading into that? Because that's what we do for a living, Dan. And we read into things like that. And then we listen and we hear that is the... It's building. It's building. It's building.
I get it.
And
It's
then
the
they come
climax of
together.
the trailer, yes.
And that's when you're told this is how this movie is going to work. This is how Wonder Woman fits into this world. This is why you're going to love this movie. This is her standing up against insurmountable odds, literally, not just a veritable army, an actual army.
Dan Murrell.
Yeah, quick succession of shots, aka a trailer. I mean, the trailer didn't have to tell me what the best part of it was. I kind of sussed that out on my own, and again, mine was the one that made Wonder Woman stand out from all the other heroes. How many heroes have we seen blocking bullets, blocking this, doing this? The Wonder Woman, the reason that I chose my moment was because it was unique to Wonder Woman and made me most singularly excited about that movie because it was different. I hadn't seen that before, and it gave me a little glimpse into how she was going to work.
Man, this one's rough. Help me.
It's a bloodbath out there.
Ringing your
It really is.
This is a tough one. Joe
I
Starr, as I'm
mean it on
thinking.
this one.
Out the gate, I will say it's hard to fact check when you guys source your friends
Your
and
friends,
girlfriends
yeah, exactly. People
from
I
the
talk to.
Niagara Falls
There's
area.
a lot of that happening this show.
My friends, they're from Niagara Falls. They do modeling work. They're just not here
They're
this year.
super real.
By the way, all my friends thought mine was the best part of the trailer.
I'm sure all your friends each thought the same.
Twitter's given us a lot of lasso love. Lidra99 says, was that Roth's Pentatonics audition tape?
I expect it to be
Pass.
Jeff.
At the Purple Dawn says, I love everyone being excited for a Wonder Woman movie. I echo that.
That's great.
Pumped
Yep.
how stoked everybody was for this thing. And I am shocked personally that no one went with What I Do Is Not Up to You, which made me cry for all women in the world a little bit because it was such a cool line.
Yeah, that was a great line, but
But, okay.
Dan's amazing, by the way, and I love him.
No, thanks.
so bright in here.
So we had Dan Murrell
too,
fighting
both
for the
fans.
uniqueness, which was a
Both
very
fans.
strong fight there. The
Thank you.
uniqueness is something we haven't seen before, and seeing that there. Roth really made a strong argument for it's the climax of the trailer, gave a lot of reasons as to why they even put it there, to give you that moment of all that's it's a strong argument there. The oppression, shattering the oppression, the gun violence, also very strong arguments on all three of these. So it's really... What is the best part of the Wonder Woman trailer? Man, this is tough. They're going to argue with me no matter what I pick, because there's not really a way to pick this one, because I think you all three made really strong arguments. I'm not going to give you all points. I'm just going to have to pick. I think there was something clever about how Roth used the climax and the music and all that, which was a really strong argument. I was really close to the two, but that was just such a strong, unique argument that I got to give Roth the point.
Yeah.
It was really tough there, but that's where I stand. What did the poll say?
Super close on Twitter. 41% the lasso scene, 40% bullet rain on S.H.I.E.L.D.
So really close.
Super close.
You were all really close. So there we go.
Dan Casey, this is the first time they weren't with you on Twitter.
well, look, Twitter,
2 out of 3
you
ain't
can't
bad.
always be right.
Nope.
All right. So Justice League was released, and based on this Justice League trailer, Shane Gizzard asked us the question: Should naysayers be excited? Is basically the question, and he's asking: should we trust it? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? I want to try to make it a little more positive, because should the people who are worried and didn't like Batman's trailer, Batman vs Superman, what gives us faith about Justice League, or did it not? You could say no, I'm worried, or yes, I think we have faith here because of this. Again, we want you to pick a scene or moment from it to help you base your argument on this. But Justice League, what do we think? Should we be happy? Are we in the right track? Dan Casey, you're starting first.
Look, I, more than anyone, wanted to be so excited after seeing that Justice League footage. Justice League was my favorite comic when I was a kid. I used to pore over issues of it in my basement. And I just have to say, this did not do it for me. They went so far in the opposite direction from BVS that it seems almost cartoonish. Why did Batman take a level 1 improv class at UCB? And specifically, the scene where Batman is going to Aquaman. It's like they just stepped out of a freaking Jameson commercial. It's like, oh, Aquaman, he used to drink a barrel a day. He brings a sack of fish like Aqua Claus every Christmas. And then at the very end of the trailer, Aquaman lifts him up by the throat, slams him against the wall, and he's just like, I hear you talk to fish. Shut up, Bruce Wayne. Your parents are dead. Think about them. Don't think about your, snappy lines of dialogue that you've, memorized for a scenario like this. You're like MacGruber putting together a squad, and frankly, it's embarrassing. You can do better. You need to be the rock that these people rally around, not the guy who's hosting the open mic night, and that really just pushed me over the edge. It was too much. Did
So
not
you're
get me
picking
excited.
that last scene with you talk to fish.
Exactly.
Okay. Roth.
Darkness, no parents. He's thought about it so much. I feel like this trailer really should be making people feel enthused and excited about Justice League and better about it. Warner Brothers did a set visit for Justice League, and the scene, and they specifically targeted journalists that did not like Batman v Superman because they
Not
wanted.
us.
well, yeah, not us, but they specifically targeted journalists who did not like that film because they wanted to show them that they were doing something different here. And the scene that they chose to show the journalists was the scene between the Flash and Batman, when he's recruiting him and when he learns and discovers that Bruce Wayne is in fact the Batman. And it's this scene right here when he throws the Batarang, and it's so great because I feel like in this, you get a sense of the action in this film, you get a sense of how the Flash's powers are going to be demonstrated, you get a sense of who Ezra Miller is and what he's bringing to this character, which though I love Grant Gustin, am wildly enthusiastic about. He is funny, he is vulnerable, they have a great dynamic, and it's just a frankly cool way to reveal Batman, and he's out in the open about it, and it shows you how the humor is going to work organically in this film, which is, I think, something that some people have some concerns about. So to me, that is 100% the scene that should be making you feel better and making you feel enthused about this film and excited to see it.
Dan Murrell.
This is always an awkward position to be in because it's a yes/no question. Dan said no, and Ross said yes. So I'm gonna say yes because I wasn't just arguing Zack Snyder, just arguing. I'm gonna say yes with an asterisk. Yes, I think that number one, we got our first good look, particularly at the Flash. I think the Flash is one that fans are really they want a good look not only for the Flash but for how he does his powers, and I think that's a very unique way. I like the way that they showed Aquaman, like the reveals, unlike in Batman v Superman, the reveals of the heroes in this trailer were very effective and very well done, and they do encourage me that maybe that they're going to be able to handle those, maybe get a little bit of a do-over from the QuickTime files, and we're going to get some really solid introductions to the heroes. But my asterisk is, yes, be enthused, but be cautious of what is not in this, which is there's no sniff of the villain, Steppenwolf or whomever, and let's not forget that last year, that was when it all started to go down, was when we got our second look at Batman v Superman and saw Doomsday. That's when things started to take a downhill decline. So I am going to say yes. If you're a naysayer, I think you should be excited because we have seen that Snyder is going to handle these heroes and introduce them in what appears to be a very cool and effective way.
So you're picking the reveal of Flash.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but tread lightly because we still don't know what lies around the corner.
All right, fight, guys.
What lies in the shadows? I guess I'm a little confused about how to fight Dan because he said two things. So I'm going to talk to you.
Great.
Which is that, first of all, I love you, Dan Casey, and you're very, very smart.
Oh, here it comes. The steel chair.
But, I feel like, look, I understand what you're saying, but the Aquaman reveal, I feel like a lot of people, including myself, were pretty enthused about it. Yes, is it a question mark? Do we not know exactly what we're going to see from this character? Yeah, but that's something kind of exciting about that. It feels like we're going to get something brand new from him. And yes.
Visually, I think it was a cool reveal, but we're not just talking about the visuals. We're talking about the whole package here. And as a whole package, I think it fell flat on its stupid, scaly face.
I think that was a very beautiful and masculine package.
Look, they had some great packages, but no, I think the dialogue in there, the only scene where that level of humor was really appropriate or worked was when he met the Flash. That is where it works.
Which is interesting because that's the scene I chose. Please continue to tell us why
it works. Yes, but here's the
works.
thing. You're talking about that scene. We're also talking about the trailer as a whole. You're electing to use that scene as an example of why. I'm talking about why that one scene shouldn't be the only thing you bear in mind, because we see wild tonal dissonance in the rest of the trailer. I mean, you have when Wonder Woman and Bruce Wayne are sitting together like, did he say yes? Maybe yes? More no. That is so beyond stupid and out of character. It made me, and I could feel my blood boil watching that scene in particular. And also, when why does Bruce Wayne have so many jokes? This is not who he is. This feels like a weird characterization. It's like, look, after Superman died, I decided to really take a new lease on life. I decided to say yes to things.
Exactly.
So I'd say yes and no.
That's what his character arc was at the end of Batman v Superman. He said, I failed him in life, and now I'm going to go and recruit the Justice League.
But how does that equate to?
Because the problem with Batman v Superman was that there were no jokes. Okay, so now there's jokes, but now they're not the right jokes. Everyone yelled at him for screaming about Martha, but now you're saying, no, think about his dead parents.
It's called finding balance. Look at Marvel, for example. Okay. They seem to have done that pretty well.
Use tonal dissonance. Didn't Civil War have that kind of tonal dissonance? Didn't have dark and light stuff too?
Yes, but it balanced it.
Well, you haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, but we're talking about this trailer. We're talking about this trailer.
And we're talking about specifically the moments in the trailer that should either enthuse you or leave you a little bit cautious. And I feel like I have specifically chosen something.
Yeah, what do you guys think of that scene?
The
Roth
Flash,
scene, yeah.
and well, I think it's again. We're speaking of Civil War. I think that it's very reminiscent of Civil War.
It's
of
very
of the
Spidey.
Tony Stark Spider-Man. I'm not saying they ripped it off. I just think it's funny. To be fair, Civil War had a lot of parallels with Batman v Superman, and Batman v Superman came out first. So I think it's funny how these two are kind of paralleling each other. Again, I thought it was fine. I thought it was good. It's a very small snapshot of the movie. That's why I can't really say anything bad about it. But again, it's so hard to go in the middle on these yes/no questions. But for me, and this is honestly, it's yes. But again, there's so much that we're not seeing, and it's what we didn't see with Batman v Superman that really got us in the end. So that's why I'm a cautious yes. It was fine.
I liked that scene, but it was still a little overloaded. Yeah, it was cool Easter eggs. You have Rick and Morty in the background, but also with the effects, I felt like that was so overdone. Like, oh, we get it. The Speed Force. We get it. You can tone down the lightning by at least 10%. I thought it was too much going on, too busy, and I thought, like, look, the slow motion, great. We're going to get a lot of that, but I thought that it was a little much.
Okay, but that was what made Quicksilver so great.
Yeah,
and if they're going to make
exactly.
this Flash like like Fox's Quicksilver, then that's great. And again, with the Flash, they've got to do something different because you have the TV show that's already got the Flash doing stuff. You have to make that visually different because they stand apart. They're separate from each other.
And I'm not saying we
and
just
I
need
like
a
that
red
it looks so
streak.
different. That's why I picked. I like that kind of lightning effect. I think it's a different way of seeing the Flash use his powers that we haven't seen yet.
I would say this. I mean, you're talking about a scene between Spider-Man and Tony Stark, which was wildly popular, which sold people on Spider-Man. And this, so if you're likening it to that, that's not a bad thing in my book, because I certainly don't think it's ripped off. There's more than one mentor-mentee relationship in the world and in movies. That scene in particular was, I think, the strongest one of that trailer. And it is absolutely the one that should have fans enthused, because if you're talking about tonal balance, that scene is the one that has it. Because if you see this, the Flash is funny because he's vulnerable, because he's lonely. There's a pathos to that character and a great deal of humor. You get that they understand who he is, they get who Barry Allen is, they get who the Flash is, and they're bringing something new and a little different to it. That works within this world. The relationship, the chemistry between the two of them is off the charts. The use of his powers is very cool and pleasing, and frankly, it's pretty cool to reveal Batman by having him fling the Batarang and having him go, oh, what just happened?
But that is
And
just
then
a fraction
grab it.
of a whole. That is two component parts
But-
of 7 people that make up the Justice League. And we're talking about, yes, that's a cool scene, but overall, this trailer did not instill confidence in me. And that's because of his relationships, specifically Bruce Wayne's relationships with everyone else in the Justice League. And that is what they showed us.
And I would argue that not only, and first of all, we were arguing for a specific moment, which is the one that I am arguing for. But outside of that I do think that there was great chemistry between them. I think that also the scene with Aquaman and the water, that was a practical. I mean,
Let's
that,
stick on the scenes you have.
Yeah.
Stick on the scenes you have.
That's
All
my
right.
scene.
Final thoughts, Dan.
My final thoughts are, look, I want Justice League to be good, and I believe it still can be good, but I don't believe, based on what they showed us, specifically the interaction between Aquaman and Batman, where he felt the need to rattle off his 100 zaniest fish jokes, was effective. If anything, it made me nervous about how they're going to handle Aquaman. And also, we need to talk about the fact that if Aquaman can talk to fish, and he's bringing fish in a bag, what is the conversation like between him and those fish on his way to that village? Hey, sorry, I'm gonna murder you so these people can have a snack. They can't eat vegetables because they're too stupid. Anyway, I just
question.
thought,
Go ahead.
it disappointed me.
Roth?
I think that actually the introduction of Aquaman, for me, was a strong introduction. Yes, do we not know exactly how this character is going to work? No, but it made me curious, and I think that that's what this footage needed to do. It made me curious. It made me wanted to know more about their relationship. They had good chemistry. I have to disagree with you. I liked the sequences of Aquaman, and I liked their chemistry. I will say that I think the Flash and Batman scene is the scene that should sell you on this film and make you feel positive, enthusiastic about it. That scene alone is enough, but the rest of the trailer was strong too. And I think, as Dan pointed out earlier, did a lot to turn the tide and make people feel more enthusiastic about this film.
I think that you've got a very charismatic actor in Ben Affleck. I think there's more to it. First of all, he says, I think you can talk to fish. That could just be a nod to the comics. We don't know that Aquaman can actually talk to fish in this segment. Secondly, he's not recruiting him as Batman. He's recruiting him as Bruce Wayne, whose persona is much more charismatic. So we don't necessarily, again, Bruce Wayne, and I like that Ben Affleck may be moving into this, always presents a more charismatic public persona than he does as Batman. I love that duality that they don't always get right on film. So I'm interested to see if that's how the movie's going to be. That intrigued me. Again, for me, it's cautious optimism, because I think the big part is how are they going to handle these characters. They botched the reveal on the first time. So to get confirmation that, yes, Zack Snyder is going to be able to treat these characters and do it in a cool way gives me hope. But I just know that there's more out there that we haven't seen, and that's why I'm a yes, but I'm waiting to see if that other shoe drops. I hope it's a good shoe.
Joe Starr.
Not a lot of facts to check in a opinion-heavy argument. If Bruce Wayne had taken a UCB class, he'd know that he was leading his scenes too much. He would have given his scene partners more time to participate, and he wouldn't have thrown a batarang because that's kind of a Michael Scott drawing a gun thing. That's not good improv. You pay a lot of money for those classes. You should take something away from them. At Travis of Marvel says, "I want it to be great, but this trailer looks like a Wrangler's jeans commercial. I don't know what that means, but I have been reading it over and over again this entire round because I just want to decipher that sentence."
I think like Aquaman in particular, standing on like the dock, we're just like, he's looking handsome, and now
In
here's
those
something
jeans.
tough that his jeans can
He
withstand.
looks like a badass
does look
Aquaman.
like
That's
that.
what he looks like.
At Mumbles Malarkey says, "There's only one Barry Allen in my heart. This feels like cheating." And our good friend Raul says, "We did not need to see Cyborg." That's what Twitter's
Wow.
saying.
Oof, sorry, Ray Fisher.
We barely saw him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I was leading away, and then the final argument swayed me, and it was Mr. Murrell, who that Bruce Wayne needs to be charismatic. That was a really good pull at the end, because I was with Dan Casey about the fish line, but then when you made the point, that's Bruce Wayne, that's not Batman, I was really impressed, and you guys were all pretty even. So at the very last second, I got to give it to Murrell.
It's a close one.
That was impressive. Because you all had good points all the way through, but that last one really surprised me. All right, round 5. Based on their panel, which Marvel movie will be the best? They released a lot of stuff. We didn't get to see some of the footage. Some of you were you all there? Did you, Dan? You didn't get to see?
No, I was watching on Twitter, which is why I was so disappointed in my tragic second question.
And yet Marvel won.
Well, a lot of it was explained
Yeah, for the
or
people that were there.
described, and Marvel won. So what? They announced a lot of stuff there, revealed a lot of stuff. What Marvel movie, based on that panel, should we be most excited for? What was the best? What will be the best? And Roth, you're going first.
Based on what we saw on the panel, which I think is the key here, it is without a doubt.
Based on their panel.
Based on
not
their panel.
Based on what we saw at their panel, just to be clear.
Based on their panel, it is without a doubt Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, because Guardians of the Galaxy came out with not only a full sequence that 100% worked on its own, showing you that this movie works in context and not just as a teaser and not just in a trailer, they also released an amazing trailer, which revealed what we all imagined, which was that, again, Kurt Russell, the greatest thing that's ever lived, is Star-Lord's dad, but he's also Ego, which gives us as a fan base so much to dive into and question. Also, James Gunn came out and said he's going to go further with Ego in terms of the pathos of that character than he did with Rocket, which is really pretty far. 100%, you saw Sly Stallone and Kurt Russell together in this trailer. It's a Tango and Cash remix in space. There's so much good about this movie that I literally might have to die after I see it. That's how I felt coming out of it. And 100% they showed me and convinced me without a doubt that not only are we going to get the greatness that we saw in the smash hit wild card Guardians 1, but that and more. And as we've seen with Marvel movies, sequels can sometimes surpass what came before. We saw that in Captain America, and I know that we are going to see that in Guardians 2, no doubt.
Dan Murrell.
Well, it's hard to compete with just this generation's love for Tango and Cash, but I'm not sure.
The teens won't shut up about it.
I know what the millennials like.
For me, and I was lucky enough to see everything. For me, based on the panel and everything that we saw, it was Spider-Man: Homecoming. This was one that we didn't know we were going to see because, Sony's part of it, Marvel's part of it. We'd heard whispers of what it was, and it was kind of surprising, actually, because they just started shooting, that they did have something to show. But what I saw in the footage that they showed and the panel, I love that cast. Again, they keep trying to do the comic book Spider-Man, which is teenage Peter Parker. And they never get it right because there's always 30-year-olds playing teenage Peter Parker. First time we had mopey Tobey Maguire. Second time we had stuttery Andrew Garfield. But they never got that. They kept putting him in high school. No.
Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah, just like they thought it was enough to put him in high school and then have him act like an adult. Here we are finally getting the comic book origin Peter Parker. Now this is something that people say like, oh, we've seen that before. We haven't. And for what we saw in the Spider-Man Homecoming teaser, you see him in class. You see him. I love there's a shot, a part of the trailer where he's watching himself battle giant man on a computer, like amateur photo, and is like, Parker, pay attention. And so it's just like, it is actually going to show you what the reality of balancing I'm Peter Parker and I'm also Spider-Man. And it had a vibe that was not like any other Spider-Man movie. It was a high school type movie. It had that humor. It's something that fans of Spider-Man that are older are going to enjoy. It's something that I think is going to reach out to the teen audience. It's kind of a high school movie that I think they're going to enjoy. And of everything that I saw, the one thing that really wowed me and made me come out saying, like, I can't wait to see that movie was Spider-Man Homecoming. Because, again, it was a shade of Spider-Man that even though people say, like, well, they've done it before, they haven't because nobody's ever gotten it right. Now that it's at Marvel, they know how to do it.
Dan Casey, what are you picking?
Look, for me, the choice was clear. I'm going to see all these movies because I love Marvel, but for me, the one I've been most excited about since it was announced a couple years ago, especially after what they brought to the panel, is Black Panther. Not only do you have Ryan Coogler directing, who's responsible for one of the best movies of 2015 in Creed, but they added so much talent to their cast. You have Lupita Nyong'o, you have Denai Guerrera, you have Michael B. Jordan joining Chadwick Boseman, and this is shaping up to be something unlike what we've seen in the MCU so far. Yes, Black Panther is a seminal part of the MCU and Marvel Comics history. He was the first African superhero, and he's going to be the first black leading superhero in the modern MCU. And yes, I remember Blade, so don't bring that up in the comments. It's not part of the modern MCU. It's going to be a political thriller. We're going to have him dealing with the fallout from what happened in Civil War. We're going to see him returning to his homeland. We're going to see a world unlike anything that we've seen so far. We've only seen glimpses of Wakanda, and I think that this is going to be something fascinating, something exciting, and something that's really going to add depth and dimension to the MCU in ways that we sorely need.
I think that... Are we fighting?
Yes.
Okay. Ryan Coogler directed one of the best directed films of last year in Creed. But here's the thing, and I'm extremely excited about all of the pieces coming together for Black Panther. I think it could be amazing. But cinema history has showed us that there is a certain alchemy to filmmaking that means that you can have all of the perfect pieces in place and not come out with a great movie. I don't think that's going to happen here, and I don't want that to happen here. But the fact is, based on the panel, we just don't know. We cannot say definitively this is going to be a great movie based on that alone. First of all, there's nothing to see yet. And this is Ryan Coogler working for the first time within the framework of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which does work for some directors, and they can sing and they can have their own voice within that, James Gunn, but it doesn't work for others, Edgar Wright. So we don't know which way that this is going to go at this point. In terms of Spider-Man, I would say this, like, yes, did we see the John Hughes version of this that we wanted? Yes. Did it look amazing? Yes, but we did not see Spider-Man. We saw like a few tiny little snippets. We did not see him in action at this panel. Yes, we saw it in Civil War, but not in this panel. We had a half a second of the villain. We really didn't see enough to know that this movie is going to work as a comic book movie. We saw enough to know that it's going to work as a John Hughes movie. The thing that showed us that the movie in total is going to work was 100,000,000% Guardians 2. There was a full scene shown. That means that they're not just giving us teases because they don't have anything good enough to show. It means they have a full scene that works in and of itself.
I don't want to, just to be fair, they've had the most time to shoot, so it's like, it's a fair, I'm taking that as a fair point, but I just need a little bit more, and I don't want to hound on too much of it, because Spider-Man's still like 10 days in shooting.
10 days in shooting, yeah.
I'm in pre-pro.
So we do have to speculate a little bit here, but
sure.
James Gunn came with the same passion that he brought to that first film, 100%. He loves these characters. He loves this world. Every single person involved clearly loved and adored what they were doing, and they were bringing it 10,000%.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can't disagree with that. First of all, we have seen Spider. We saw him in Civil War, and everybody loved him.
But we didn't see it at the panel.
Not in the panel. But what I liked about what we did see at the panel is that we didn't see Spider-Man. We saw the rest of it, and just seeing the Peter Parker stuff, just seeing the high school stuff, got everybody. I'm telling everybody came out of Spider-Man: Homecoming saying, "Wow, like this looks like a really cool, fun, different Spider-Man." And you didn't have to show Spider-Man. You're right. There was not one shot of Spider-Man.
No, there
in
were
the trailer.
shots of Spider-Man. It just wasn't a lot.
But it didn't feature Spider. It would have been easy to get cheap applause by throwing Spider-Man flipping on the screen.
But they did. Yeah, they did that at the end of it.
No, they didn't. That was the Vulture.
Yeah.
That was the Vulture.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did.
It was the Vulture. Okay.
And Spider-Man.
No.
No,
okay.
it was. For sure.
Look, here's the thing. Just because
I'm getting
you have...
thrown here. I just want to address Guardians real quick. I'm fully confident that James Gunn can deliver another fun movie like Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, you showed one scene that was a fun-looking scene. We don't know more about the whole. It looks like it's going to have the tone of Guardians. My one caveat is we have a bigger again, from what I've seen at the panel, is a much bigger cast. A lot of times when you add cast and characters, so many to that movie, it's a little too many two mouths to feed. And for me, Guardians, like, what is it about? Is it about Thanos? Thanos wasn't in the trailer. Is he involved? And then you've got Nebula coming back. Then you have Ego. Then you have Sylvester Stallone. So I saw a lot of things in that trailer. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to recapture the magic of Guardians. With Black Panther, I agree that there's great talent involved, but I would agree a little bit with Roth too. We saw the talent involved on stage at the panel, which is great, but it's great potential. Great potential, but I'm not convinced. I can't say that the movie's going to be great because there's literally nothing to go on. I like the team behind it, but Iron Man 2 had Favreau and Downey and the entire cast coming back, and Mickey Rourke when he was on his resurgence, and that was a disappointing movie with a cast and crew that had great potential. For me, Spider-Man was both.
But, huge asterisk there, Mr. Asterisk. That is a sequel you're talking about. And also, having stuff to show, having footage to show because you've had more time in production does not equal a good movie. Yes, Guardians 1 was great. I loved it. But you can't always capture that magic with a sequel, especially in the MCU. Yes, sometimes it works, but sometimes you get a Thor the Dark World. Sometimes you get a Spider-Man 2. Actually, no, Spider-Man 2 is good. Sometimes you get a Spider-Man 3. Sequels don't necessarily equal good. They don't necessarily equal better. And just because they showed one scene that worked doesn't mean the whole is going to work. From what I'm gathering, it's just one giant clump of daddy issues, and they're clumping in even more people with daddy issues. Oh, now there's Baby Groot to sell merchandise. And guess what? Now Rocket's going to have to be his dad. Oh, it's so sweet. But does that make it a good movie? Not necessarily. With Spider-Man, look, yes, maybe it was nice to see Peter Parker, but we've only seen him for snippets. We don't know if he can carry a full movie. We've just seen him being charismatic for several minutes at a time. We don't know if he has the chops to like hold out and bear this entire movie on his shoulders.
I would bounce that argument back to you with Black Panther.
I thought he was one of the best parts of Civil War.
And I thought Spider-Man was the best part of Civil War.
And I think that, look, with Spider-Man, I think you're also already running into a problem because they revealed at the toy panel there's going to be like 3 villains in Spider-Man. You're getting the same problem as Amazing Spider-Man 2.
We're talking about the toy panel. We're talking about the Marvel
it's all part
panel.
of a component whole. But look, we're talking about the Marvel panel here. Yes, we get the John Hughesy vibe. We get that. But for my money, for what's going to be the most exciting, for something that we haven't seen before, something tonally that we haven't seen before, something character-wise that we haven't seen before, we've seen Spider-Man have his own movie. We've seen the Guardians have their own movie. We have not seen a character as prominent and as important to the Marvel legacy as Black Panther headlining his own movie.
Right, which means that it's going to be an important movie, and I really hope it's going to be a good one, and I think it could be a great one, but we don't know. The question is, coming out of this panel, what do we know will be a great movie?
Black Panther.
And
Which movie will be the best?
It will be Guardians, and that is 100% coming out of that panel. With the information that we have, that is the movie that is positioned to be the strongest. Look, the people involved in this film 100% are passionate. James Gunn is so passionate about this character. He's bringing these characters, he's bringing everything that he has to it. And to your point, you're talking about too many characters. Guardians was always an ensemble movie, and it worked beautifully as an ensemble movie, and it will continue to work beautifully with the addition of these new characters. And that is what was clear coming out of this panel. This other stuff is just guesswork.
I'm using as your final thoughts, Dan Murrell.
Black Panther and Spider-Man, that kind of nullifies because we've both only seen snippets of them in Civil War. I think the potential of these characters was both great coming out of Civil War, and I think you're basing part of your argument on that as well. Again, Guardians 2, we saw one funny scene, and it's the one that's the furthest in production. I'm not sold on the whole of the movie being great. I am a little concerned at sprawl, and you say that all the time. I'm not saying it's going to be a terrible movie, but Spider-Man Homecoming is the one that excited me the most because, number one, it's Spider-Man in the hands of Marvel. We've seen it done fairly well, a little
Sony
bit with
is still the one producing
but
this.
Marvel is the creative strings behind this. This is what we know. We know that Kevin Feige is overseeing it. We know that Marvel is calling the shots on this one creatively, and that's what people are excited about. Spider-Man Homecoming is the one that everyone is excited to see. Black Panther, I just don't know enough. Great potential. Guardians 2, funny scene, yes, but I have concerns about expanding it as a whole because you already had so many characters in the first one, and Ronan got short shrift just in the first one, and now you're adding more.
Dan Casey, final thoughts.
Look, if we're talking, just because Spider-Man is finally a high school age teenager and they're putting him in high school, great. That doesn't mean jack shit if it's going to be a good movie or not. Just because they showed, oh, get that John Hughesy vibe, we'll cut together this nifty little trailer. That doesn't mean it's going to be the best movie. With Guardians, we've seen it before. We know what we're going to get. We know we're going to get something fun. We don't know if it's going to be the best. And if anything, I'm a little nervous because it does seem like it's getting a little unwieldy. It's losing a little bit of focus. For my money, I think that Black Panther has the potential to be the best. I think it will be the best because you get the political intrigue, you get the family drama, and you get something that we have not seen before, which is something set in Wakanda, which is such an important and vibrant part of the Marvel universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Shit. Joe?
Let's see here. Twitter's got some opinions because it's Twitter at Raven Film says, I'm tired of Spider-Man. Tom Holland did nothing for me in Civil War. I saw a different movie, I think.
I
saw Ken Burns.
Yeah.
At Myers FTW says, all the Marvel films sound great, but Black Panther has an amazing, incredible cast. Not a whole lot of facts to check here. Feige is at the creative reins of the Sony
No, he's
deal.
co-producing it with Amy Pascal from Sony. So
Right.
the deal is that they have him for the MCU, but this is the Sony movie.
But he's still
But
creatively
he's still
involved.
creatively in charge.
involved.
Right.
He's
Anything else,
creatively
Joe?
co-involved.
That's all we've got fact-wise. Nothing else really stood out.
I don't envy you today.
This is it's a lot of opinions. I'm realizing.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue these because everyone wants us to argue these, but then it's hard to argue these. I really wanted to go Black Panther, but then I didn't hear enough. Why? Because I think yes, we're speculating, but that cast is incredible. So I wanted to hear more. On my notes here, this wasn't. Yes, you focused a lot on Wakanda, which is important, but I just feel like there's a lot you missed there.
Should have mentioned Eric Killmonger.
So and then Dan did make some good arguments against the Guardian because Guardians is sort of the obvious choice because you made a lot of good points, but also the footage did really well. But then Dan did some good questions. You did challenge her with the good argument of it's a lot of people and Ronan not getting the short shift, and this
Which
being
means
something
they've
new.
learned their lessons.
I hope so.
Just for the Tango and Cash part. Roth gets the point.
Tango and Cash!
It was really
Is that
tough.
Bundy?
That was
Is
really-
that
Well, I mean,
Nick?
I didn't even realize the two of them were in it until she said it. It's pretty epic.
Is this because I'm the only one who doesn't work
I
here?
mean, come on.
Well, yeah, it's got Sylvester Stallone in it. Of course, JT's going to give you the thumbs up. He's giving the Rocky
Stallone
hands
and
back
Russell,
there.
I didn't realize. I was like, it is Tango and Cash together. Dan Casey, you were very close. How about a round of applause for Dan Casey? And it's not just because you don't work here. Thanks for making and fanning the flames. But I hope you come back, and I hope you stick now to help me choose which one of these two
Absolutely.
wins. One of them called you Dim,
No,
so
But I'm too stupid to remember who. It could be anyone's game.
Can I address that?
you were kidding. I know. It's all good.
I really was kidding, and it was because that argument about the Wonder Woman moment, I so meant it, like in my
Oh,
heart.
you were passionate. Yeah,
Like,
I think we
and
can all say you were passionate
I
there.
let my passion get away from me. I'm sorry.
No,
Dan.
we were all friends here. It gets heated.
It happens to me all the time.
You guys, yeah, Dan didn't lose it when just this episode. That's my favorite moment. It gets passionate here, guys. Give these fighters a break. We're under the lights fighting for you guys, so please be kind.
This one was more brutal than normal.
Everyone's been. This is a great fight.
We've been through hell.
Speed round, you both have played this before.
Yeah.
Dan, you're going to help me here. We're listening
right.
to the arguments. Based on the arguments, we're going to decide who wins. And we have, I think, Comic-Con themed speed rounds. Yes, here we
Oh,
go.
wow.
Good.
Okay.
Yep, here we go. Making sure they're in here. First up is a bargain bin. We always go there
yes.
first. So look up at the TV screen in a minute. All right, in a second, I'm going to show 2 DVDs. These were submitted by Marvel Junkie Jake, a movie junkie Jake. And you guys are going to pick which movie we should watch and when or buy. Ready? Let's show them.
Top Gun.
Point Break, obviously.
We got Top Gun for Dan and Point Break for Roth. Thank you, Movie Junkie Jake. 15 seconds, 15 or 20? I forget now. 15, right?
20 and 10.
20 and 10. We did. I'm going Comic-Con rules. 20 seconds for Dan on the clock. As soon as you start talking, you good to keep it, Joe?
I'm good.
Good.
Top Gun is not just one of the best action movies of the 80s. It's one of the best action movies, period. It stars Tom Cruise at his peak when he was just starting to be the icon. There's a reason that he has been a movie star for 30 years, and part of it is the kind of charisma that he brings to Top Gun. And apart from, the 80s references, it holds up. It's still exciting, the dogfights.
Roth, 20 seconds.
This is how amazing Point Break is. Point Break is so amazing that it spawned the Fast and the Furious, which became one of the most fun, entertaining franchises of our generation. And then that spawned another Point Break, which showed us how great the original Point Break is and drew you back all the way to there, it's the Alpha and the Omega.
Whoa. Point Break spawned the Fast and Furious 10 years after it came out? No. Point Break is an action movie. Fast and Furious is an action movie. There is no connection. And if it's in any way responsible for the remake of Point Break, then that was not worth it.
No, Point Break 100% spawned Fast and the Furious because it is the same story with cars instead of surfing. Go watch it and find out, Dan. And not only that, the remake only served to bring us back to the magic that is Point Break, the better, most superior action movie.
You can have 3 more seconds, Dan, because she went long.
Yeah, Point Break is famous because it's badly acted. Top Gun is famous because it's good.
Okay.
That is 100% true.
How dare you!
Dan Casey, based on the arguments, where are you leaning?
Look, I have to say, as much as I love, make it 2, Utah, make it 2. I have to give it to Top Gun there because I do think it holds up better. And I think if I saw the 2 in a bargain bin, as much as I'd want to knock a couple back and make fun of Point Break with my friends, I feel like I would want to watch Top Gun more frequently.
You guys have
Joe
no
Starr.
respect.
I gotta go with Dan. He talked more about the movie, and the legacy argument is always a tough one to convince people on.
Yeah, and I think you just killed yourself when you brought up the remake even at all. Yeah, I saw that you were going, and then I was like, whoa, you got lost in there. So I got to go with Dan on that point, but we're still in it. All right.
This game is fixed.
Oh,
Kevin Smith knows.
don't be a sore loser. The fans won't like you. Come on. Friendly advice to everybody, including myself. It's tough under here. Best Oliver Stone movie.
JFK.
Ooh, that was quick.
JFK.
Pick
Yes.
JFK.
Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Good pull.
Well, gee, I wonder what's going to win.
The game is not
I didn't
fixed.
think of that. That was a good one.
JFK versus NBK. I just like the
that's right,
synergy
that.
there.
All right, you got to go first, Dan. 20 seconds.
I think that JFK is one of the most masterfully edited and crafted movies of all time. Whether you believe what they're saying or not, Oliver Stone convinced the country that JFK was killed in a conspiracy involving Tommy Lee Jones and Cubans, and I think it is one of the most masterfully crafted films with the cast, the acting. I don't care what you think about the message, the filmmaking, and the craft of that movie is amazing.
Natural Born Killers captured an ethos at a point in time about violence in this country and how it is depicted on television and how we sort of consume ourselves in a culture that both brings violence to the screen and then brings it into the real world. There were laugh tracks. There were laugh tracks in this.
I don't think about Oliver Stone when I think about Natural Born Killers. I think about Quentin Tarantino. That was very much his 90s movie, and I think JFK is a more massively well-crafted film. Technically and acting-wise, I think it is better put together than Natural Born
The
Killers.
acting is what you just brought up. I'm talking about the direction of this film. This film captured something about that generation, and it did it in a way that was so totally unique, and due to the direction.
I gotta go. I'll go first this time, and I gotta go. I think Dan did it really well. You got stuck on the ethos, and the Tarantino script was a really good.
It was not the script,
job.
that was the direction.
So I'm going with Dan. Dan Casey, where are you going?
I disagree. I think that Roth really hit the nail on the head. I think that Natural Born Killers is a more resonant movie. It holds up better today. And I think that in terms of Oliver Stone's canon, look, if I see both of them on Netflix, I'm going to add JFK to my instant queue, but I'm going to watch Natural Born Killers.
Joe Starr.
I gotta go with Roth on this one. The legacy argument weirdly worked better this round.
All right, Roth, you get it.
I feel like he made the better argument, but I'll take it.
I do too, thank you.
Yeah, I do too. I think they both added more than you said, but
give him
that's
the
fine.
point. Give him the
No,
point.
it's fine.
No,
We're good.
we got it. That's how the rules work here. So we're tied. Again, here we go. Number 3. Best sequel: Aliens or T2?
Shit, why would you
Terminator 2.
make us choose that? Aliens. I mean, they're both amazing.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to tell me which one's better.
Okay.
Here we go. Start clown. Clock starts when you start talking, Dan.
Terminator 2, first of all, surpassed the original, which is very rare in a sequel. Number 2, it revolutionized the way that films are made as far as visual effects, as far as the way that they're marketed. It was one of the big early blockbusters of the 90s, and it's just an amazingly well movie. There's not a moment in that movie that doesn't hold up 20 plus years later. Hasta la vista, baby. Culturally, it's more resonant.
As one of the biggest Terminator fans in the world, I watched them back to back with a James Cameron fest recently, and the sad truth is that T2 is like a direct replica of T1. Go watch it back to back and find out. It's hitting every single beat. Whereas Aliens brought something totally different to that franchise. It is an amazing action film. It took a horror movie and made it to one of the best action movies of all time.
Terminator 2 had fun because it was using the beats of the first film to twist your expectations. The reveal wasn't given away the first time you see that movie. And Aliens is not a better movie than Alien. Terminator 2, I think, is objectively a better movie than the Terminator. That makes it a better sequel.
It is not a better movie, and it is, in fact, a direct replica. Go watch it back to back. Whereas Aliens did something completely new. It brought something new to that franchise. It increased that franchise. It made it bigger. It made it stronger. It brought it to a wider audience, completely different genre.
Man, that was a fight. Joe Starr.
That was the Terminator music, and I've got to give the vote to Terminator there. Yeah, the argument that it riffs on itself and has fun because it is a play on Terminator 1 and a superior sequel worked for me.
Dan Casey.
I think, Jesus, this is a Sophie's choice.
Based on the argument.
Based on the argument, I felt more swayed by Dan's points about Terminator 2. I think that he made a better point about how it improved on the original by flipping your expectations and did something unique within the context of something familiar.
Yeah, I'm with you. You had me, and then he had you. But you said it was a riff, but then he did have a good counter about why that actually works to its benefit. So it doesn't matter what I say anyway. They both picked Dan. We're on the same page. 4-3. Wow, this is a tight one. All right, here we go.
It's close. It's a close one.
Best villain from any Spider-Man movie.
Dr. Octopus.
Oh my God. I don't know. I'm not going to concede the point. Osborn.
Which one?
Harry, obviously.
That's James Franco?
Yeah,
yes,
Franco.
Okay, great. Franco versus Doc Ock. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
You picked the wrong Osborn. You picked the goon that hit his head and got amnesia and danced with Mary Jane. And the third one especially, he is ridiculous. Dr. Octopus is what makes Spider-Man 2, and this is controversial, the greatest comic book movie of all time because he is a mentor to Peter, because he informs who Spider-Man's character is, because he's a psychologically complex character, and you actually feel for him. He's not...
One of the most important things about comic books and comic book movies and why they are the current mythology of our day is because of this idea of two people that are best friends, brothers, who are torn apart by forces outside of themselves. And that is what that relationship captures. That relationship is so much deeper because it spends movies setting up how close they are and then it tears them asunder.
It doesn't. I'm sorry. His
Yes, it does.
that arc is in Spider-Man 3 and it is completely wasted. He hits his head, oh, Peter, I'm dancing, let's do it. No, you're not. No. He's ridiculous. He's a joke in that movie. Dr. Octopus is tearing two people apart who respect each other. That's what makes Spider-Man 2 so great.
We are talking about the depth of the relationship between these two characters, and it is not a joke. It is completely resonant. The sense of betrayal that is in place on both sides is what captures what is magical, what is special, what is important about comic books.
Whoa. I love this. This is good. These are good fighters up here, huh?
Yeah.
If you're gonna lose, you want to lose to good fighters.
Exactly.
Dan
exactly.
Casey, what do you think?
Look, when you first came out the gate, I agree you chose the wrong Osborn, but I think that you swayed me because I do agree that is a very important part of the modern comic book mythology and a big reason why we look into this. And also, they should have called him Doctopus, so that's a big knock against you.
They just called Dr. Octopus.
He should be Doctopus.
He
Just make it one
That's
word.
That's patently ridiculous.
Joe Starr.
I will say out the gate, I gave them each 5 extra seconds because I just
Wanted
was
to.
enjoying listening to Dan and just was like, oh, this ended earlier. If I had seen either of these movies, I like that Brotherhood argument. I got to give this to Roth.
Whoo! I was on the fence. I'll let that happen because I was maybe leaning to Dan, but it's a fair point. She did come that out. So all right, there we go.
I love
We're
that
tied.
you have to take out having actually seen Spider-Man 3 to win that argument.
No, you had her, but then I think she surprised me that she had you just as tight back.
All right.
Here we go. Final question. Wow, we went down nail biter. This is it. This is the winning question. It's a this or that. So listen carefully and speak up quickly. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Blair Witch or Paranormal Activity?
Blair Witch.
I heard Dan first. Blair Witch. And that means, Roth, you get Paranormal. All right, so you have a moment to think. Dan, go ahead.
These are both movies that had all hype. The difference is that Paranormal Activity did not deliver on the hype. It was a gimmick. Blair Witch did. People are still making horror movies because it influenced the way that genre is done, and it is terrifying. For people that say it's boring, that's not true. It's not your conventional horror movie, but it opened the door for non-conventional horror movies like you're seeing with Lights Out, like we're seeing with so many things that bend the horror genre.
Time starts when you're ready.
Paranormal Activity brought us the most important horror producing company of our time, which is Blumhouse. That is what it brought us. It brought us the micro-budget horror movie. It absolutely 100% changed the way this genre is done, and it is all because of Paranormal Activity, which did deliver on the hype in that first film far more, in my opinion, than Blair Witch, which did not scare me when I saw it.
First of all, brought you the micro-budget horror movie. Blair Witch invented the micro-budget horror movie, and it opened the door for lo-fi productions like Paranormal Activity. It's because people saw the success of Blair Witch that they were inspired to do that kind of thing.
Except that Blumhouse then bought that movie, and then it created that franchise, which now has changed the way horror is done across this entire industry. It was that movie, not Blair Witch, that did that.
Ooh, these two are good, huh? Crap.
Dan's better, let's face it.
Oh,
Shut up, I'm better.
I'm glad not to be in this round.
That was really good back and forth. I mean, I have my opinion, but I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm going to write it down so no one thinks I cheat. But Dan Casey, who are you thinking?
I have to give this to Roth. I have to give this one to Roth because I think that she makes an important point. Yes, Blair Witch may have opened a door for Paranormal Activity, but what Paranormal Activity did changed horror in such an important way.
Joe Starr.
First of all, I'll say I am still mad about my TV fight with Roth, and I'm realizing now that she went easy on me, so I'm so sorry, Dan. But I do have to give this to Dan. I think Roth got a little caught up on the production company, and Dan talked about his actual film. Roth wasn't able to do that with Paranormal.
Dan, what did I write there?
You wrote Dan.
I wrote Dan. I agree. Joe said exactly what I was worried about. Yes, the micro budget, it was important, but we got to stick to the movie. It's got to be about the movie, and I think he then even brought it back of you wouldn't have it without Blair Witch, which was the net death blow I needed to hear. But man, that was close. Round of applause for Dan Murrell for the win, and really close second for Roth Cornet. Wow.
That was crazy hard fight. I am sweating.
I'm on the board.
You're on the board. Yeah, you did. That was 5 rounds. That's actually tough.
Exactly.
So you did good job, everybody.
These two were amazing.
That was a long fight, but well worth it. I loved that fight. You three know your stuff, and I was very honored to have you all here doing that. Whew! All right, let's get through these plugs and stick around for after the fight. We're going to talk a little bit more if you're watching on Plus. Dan Casey at how do you say your Twitter?
It's at osteoferocious, like the crippling bone disease, but meaner because at Dan Casey was taken. Sorry, guys.
It's hard to spell though.
I know. This is my life.
Could you get like Dan Casey too?
No, man.
Do what I did. At Casey Dan.
Yeah, someone else. He's squatting on all my handles. There's a mind game.
Well, you did great. I hope you'll come back, and obviously people can find you on Nerdist.
Yes, Nerdist.com. I'll see you guys there.
Love it. Roth Cornet at rothcornet. You got your Roth Cornet Twitter. Good for you.
I did. I mean, there's a lot of us out there. But you guys, I'm going to say this seriously. Thank you so much. I was sweating. That got intense.
You were nervous. I know, and you brought it.
I was really, really nervous coming into this, and you guys are as good as I thought you're going to be. If I'm going to lose to anybody, it's going to be this man right here. So thank you.
Man.
Dan Murrell at Murrell Dan.
At Murrell Dan, and oh man, I picked a hell of a one to come back for. That's a good way to get back into fighting shape is going against these two, because that was maybe definitely one of the toughest fights I've ever had. That was intense.
Yeah, we're going to rematch that one, I think. Joe Starr at 187 on Twitter. Hey, Joe and Dan, how about we plug the fact that we're Emmy nominated, and if there's any Academy Award, Emmy voters listening, they should wow, thank you for watching our show, first of all.
Yes.
And second of all, how about go vote for us to win an Emmy? I mean, that's pretty crazy
fun.
cool.
Elections are important, and I can't think of a more important election this year.
It's kind of insane.
On his trailers.
But yeah, we'd love support if you're watching, and you can have the opportunity to vote for Emmys. Go to Variety short form series.
Short form series, I believe.
Variety short form series, and vote for Honest Trailers, guys.
Yeah.
Emmy nominated Honest Trailers.
It's crazy.
It's still surreal.
It's insane.
You might hear us plugging a bit because we want to try and win an Emmy. Come on, guys, help us out. But I want to make sure we plug that. And everybody in the booth, everyone here, thank you for watching. We'll be here for After the Fight next, and I'm hoping something happens next week. I don't want to overhype this, but we're close. So we might have a very big fight, or it'll be another just good fight. But check in next week, or check us up on Twitter, and hopefully something good happens. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.
Every podcast we put on YouTube comes with this kick-ass graphic listing all the topics your favorite Screen Junkies podcasters are talking about. If you click the topics, you can skip around and choose your own podcast battle royale. Go ahead, try them all. If you haven't already, subscribe to Screen Junkies on YouTube to join us for future fights. Or if you prefer to listen on iTunes, click the logo to download an audio version.